Euromaxx highlights. Coming up in today's show, rising star, German street artist XOOOOX comes in from the cold. Floating homes, a modern take on the houseboat from the Netherlands. And Irma's World, illustrator Jasmin Khezri created a virtual fashion expert. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
Hello and welcome to the show. Being chosen to model fashion by French designer Jean-Paul Gaultier is a real honour at the best of times. But when the same person gets to showcase both his latest menswear collection and his women's wear too, then something quite sensational is taking place. But believe it or not, that's exactly what has just happened. Gaultier's latest muse has lips like Scarlett Johansson and perfect cheekbones to match. Androgynous 19-year-old Andrej Pejic was initially mistaken for a woman by the talent scout who discovered him. And now you could say he's enjoying two mega-successful modelling careers.
At Jean-Paul Gaultier's most recent haute couture show, the beautiful blonde bride stole the show. In fact, the beautiful blonde bride was a man. 19-year-old Andrej Pejic, currently one of the fashion world's hottest models.
I didn't expect to get to this level. People are a bit bored of the same old. And yeah, they are more prone to embrace eccentricity.
People just don't know what to make of Andrej. That's what designers like about him, especially Jean-Paul Gaultier. He regularly sends the young man with the feminine features down his runways in both male and female apparel.
He's very beautiful, and the best thing about him, as he says himself, is that he's two people for the price of one. Perfect.
Gaultier's current ad campaign features Croatian-born Andrej with fellow model Karolina Kokova of the Czech Republic. American designer Marc Jacobs is another big fan.
There was just a feeling like, you know, this boy was so beautiful, and I don't know, I think we live in a modern world, and I hate labels. You know, I hate when people say something is masculine or feminine or pretty or ugly, because to me everything is interesting if you're interested in it.
Photographers are also intrigued by his unique looks, including Franck Perrin, who shot him for the cover of the September issue of Crash magazine.
He's just completely unique. He has a very special aura, and his face is out of this world.
His distinctive face is his selling point. Andrej has long been aware that he looks different, but it's never bothered him.
I never had problems, you know, growing up because I went to a really good school. So yeah, no, I always sort of I was appreciated, I guess you could say, rather than rejected.
He was 17 and still at school when he was discovered on the street in Melbourne. He says that if he hadn't become a model, he'd probably have studied law, even though he's always loved fashion. Andrej also wears women's clothes even when he's not working.
I sometimes will buy more women's wear just because it's more fitted, and I like a fitted look. And also I think it's cheaper to look good as a woman. I love a good heel.
He's perfectly comfortable turning heads, but Andrej also wants people to accept him the way he is.
For me, like when I see a person, it doesn't matter, you know, if they're a man or a woman. I mean, you're supposed to treat, you know, a person equally, whether they're black or white. So, you know, why is it so important? I think it's only because it's unusual, you know, because usually with every human being you can usually tell their gender. But that doesn't mean that, it's, I think in this day and age, if women and men have equality, then this shouldn't be such a big deal.
To some, it is a big deal. But the fashion world adores him. He has lots of fan clubs on the internet, and he's one of the most successful models his Paris agency has ever had on its books.
He's a real star. He has a career as a female model. He's one of our top 5 new female faces, and he has the same success as a male model. He does all the big shows and major shoots. He's very impressive.
His extraordinary look is in huge demand right now, and next year he's planning to buy an apartment in London. But that doesn't mean that he's going to stay in fashion forever.
I kind of go along with the flow for a bit, but I'm sure at some point I'll have to settle down, you know, and buy a house in some Eastern European village, and, you know, feed chickens for the rest of my life.
But until that time comes, Andrej Pejic is happy to enjoy the razzmatazz of international fashion.
An amazing story. Time now to meet a street artist called XOOOOX. It's actually spelt XOOOOX, as he wishes to remain anonymous, a bit like the famous British street artist Banksy. This is because street art is what it says, art created in public spaces, and sometimes this work lies in a grey zone between legality and illegality. Even so, XOOOOX is making quite a name for himself, and Euromaxx managed to get a rare interview with him.
These life-size stenciled images have popped up in various corners of Berlin. Created by XOOOOX, an artist who has no identity but plenty of profile. In his secret studio in the German capital, he sprays stenciled images for commercial sale. In this case, one of a famous photo of American film director Sofia Coppola. He's been making art with spray cans since the age of 13.
It was in the summer holidays, when we'd be out in the neighborhood on our bikes. We found an aerosol can in a car park, which someone apparently left there after spraying their car wheels. We took it to our hangout under an old railway bridge, where we began experimenting with it. Suddenly, we noticed it had a kind of magic.
In the 17 years since then, the Polish-born street artist has literally made his mark across Europe, in Rome, Vienna, London, and other cities. The authorities see his delicate creations as vandalism and illegal.
In the case of facades that are already covered in posters and art, nobody even notices. People think it's an approved wall. But if it's a freshly painted wall, then I wait until the evening or the night. It's stressful and you have to work fast, but it's all part of the game.
In the relaxed confines of his studio, he prepares his stencils. One of the reasons for posting his work in public spaces is to access people who would otherwise have little exposure to art.
A pretty woman in a pretty dress on a rancid and crumbling old wall. And the woman also crumbles away. She's part of the wall.
He takes his models and motifs from photos in glossy lifestyle magazines. The transient nature of the resulting art is a conscious factor.
People spend too much time thinking about superficial things like appearance and status symbols that don't last. Your car might be fancy today, but in 10 years' time it won't be. There's too much energy being wasted on things like that.
The artist now has regular exhibitions like this one in Berlin. XOOOOX has featured in international auctions alongside works by Andy Warhol and Damien Hirst, and his commercial popularity has grown accordingly.
He exudes a kind of uniqueness. You don't directly see the link to street art where people normally think of graffiti.
It's like art from life. These people are inside life. The others too, but these are more authentic and direct.
In fact, here, XOOOOX's trademark, stenciled women, is housed in a modest little room at the exhibition. There's a greater focus on paintings, photographs, and urban sculptures, reflecting his desire to evolve as an artist. He wants XOOOOX to be associated with all forms of art.
It was a difficult step to take, combining everything like this. But if someone gets set in their ways and only wants these stencils, these women, then you have to feel sorry for them. Then they're brand crazy. But if they understand what I want to express with these stencil pictures, then they'll understand.
Who knows how the art market will feel about his new developments, but XOOOOX has already made his mark.
Sea levels are slowly rising around the world, and one country here in Europe which is very concerned about this is the Netherlands, which is very low-lying and densely populated, especially around the capital, Amsterdam. The Dutch architect Marlies Roma has taken the traditional houseboat as a model and brought it into the 21st century, creating a whole new neighbourhood on the water.
Half boat, half house. These hybrid homes make up a brand new district of Amsterdam, Eiburg, an artificial island just a few kilometers from the city centre, and now home to 55 floating family homes and another 20 houses on stilts. Locals like Willem Blokker enjoy feeling so close to nature.
Well, it's so quiet and light here, and you're much more aware of the elements. You can hear the rain beating down on the roof, and whenever there's a storm, you can see lightning illuminating the skies.
The new neighbourhood was designed by Dutch architect Marlies Roma. She wanted to create housing that offered residents an urban lifestyle with a difference.
Floating homes symbolize freedom. You work all day and come home and sit down with a glass of wine and look out. That's the image we wanted to design.
This was the first time that Marlies Roma and her colleagues have worked on buildings without firm foundations. The project called for innovative solutions. The houses couldn't be constructed on site, for example. They were built in a shipyard some 70 kilometers away and transported to Eiburg by water.
We could build the houses very quickly because the shipyard was covered, so weather didn't matter. It's an ideal place to build.
The architect came up with a design inspired by shipping containers. The houses are made of wood, glass and synthetics and built on concrete tanks stationed in the water. The front doors are reached via pontoons, and the water, electricity and sewage pipes are also incorporated into them. Building contractor Ton van Namen has been involved with the project since it started.
The whole project is one big experiment. It's the first time in the Netherlands and even in Western Europe that floating homes are being built on this scale.
The district features apartments, family homes and even social housing. Eiburg is fast developing into a lively neighbourhood. More than 14 million euros have been invested in the project. A house like this one, owned by Willem Blokker, costs about €500,000. In the centre of Amsterdam, real estate costs twice that much. The houses all boast 3 upper stories, 156 square meters of living space, and great views of the water. They have all the creature comforts, but needless to say, they do rock a little. Moving in is a balancing act.
You can't put the fitted kitchen and a heavy cupboard on the same side of the house. Everything tips.
But Blocker says the extra trouble is worth it for the special atmosphere of a floating home.
Sometimes I still get the feeling that someday somebody's going to ask for the keys back. I feel like I'm on a permanent vacation.
It's a feeling that might soon be shared by homeowners in Germany and Korea, where there's a lot of interest in the Dutch floating home concept.
Now it's time for me to introduce you to a real glamour girl, a jet setter and a woman who stays in the coolest hotels around the world. She's always dressed up to the nines. Indeed, she's a bit of a trendsetter. That's why she writes for a fashion magazine, keeps a blog, and every month 1 million people hang on her every word. And all this even though Irma is actually just an illustration.
I am a very stylish girl.
This is Irma. Wide eyes, wind-blown hair, only a few centimeters tall, but always on the go. Whether in London, Paris, or the Côte d'Azur, Irma is always where the action is. And this is Jasmin Khezri, Irma's inventor. Jasmin is a graphic designer. She developed the character in the early 1990s while working as an art director for various German magazines. Irma was her alter ego. Today, the attractive figure is a world-famous trend scout.
I've worked in fashion for a long time, and I saw Irma as a dress-up paper doll, because initially she was all about fashion. When the collections came out, she wore them right away. And that went on for a while. But I realized that Irma had become a bit superficial. So then I began giving her much more depth over the years.
Irma has 3 columns each month in the German edition of the fashion magazine Glamour. She's also in demand as a fashion consultant in Asia. Her looks make her a popular choice for international ads, like this one for the American cosmetic company Kiehl's.
She always takes on something of the country she happens to be in, and she always takes something home. This is not an artificially conceived figure dreamt up by some market research institute. As in, what does today's young lady look like and what does she do? Ultimately, this is the real life of a woman, of various women of various ages.
Irma also has her own internet website, where she gives her fans tips on improving their lives. Or they can dress Irma up in the latest designer creations. It's the perfect playground for grown-up women and draws users from all over the world.
The people who write me letters always address me as Dear Irma. I think they really identify with this figure and think she can give them some advice. But of course, most of the tips I give have to do with lifestyle and fashion. They're not psychological tips. I couldn't give those because I'm not a psychologist.
The German-Persian artist currently lives in Munich. To keep her readers completely up to date on fashion, she has to travel a lot. Sometimes she flies for just a day to Rome or Paris to wander at random through the city.
I think my strength is that I'm very observant. I can sum things up, and then I get a feel for what's new. And then I project it onto Irma. She'll then say, this is it, this is the new trend. Trendy is an overused word, but ultimately she's the one who's saying, hey, try this out.
Irma is also popular as a fashion motif, like here with the French haute couture label Celine. Irma will soon be launching her own collection. For the illustrator Jasmin Khezri, Irma has always been about more than outward beauty.
Whenever you have a broad audience, then you convey a message and educate them. That's part of what I want to do with Irma. I want to move away from pure consumption, from the idea that all young women love to go shopping and find fulfillment in it. In my opinion, such pleasures are very short-lived. People should look around and be curious about what else they see.
I am a very stylish girl.
However, Jasmin Khezri does love shopping for books. They let people dream, perhaps of a life like Irma's.
Finally, luxury for the ears. Sound quality has improved in leaps and bounds in recent times, or has it? Real high-end hi-fi fans started grumbling when the CD arrived, and as for the more recent MP3, sound connoisseurs consider this almost a dirty word. Meanwhile, downloading music from the internet is the norm, and although I'm not a sound freak myself, I do notice the difference in quality. So for those lovers of great hi-fi, help is at hand in the form of high-resolution downloading.
Until recently, you couldn't access music via the internet that has a truly clear, rich and detailed sound. That's why hi-fi enthusiasts, such as Christoph von Knobelsdorff, didn't even try. But that's all changed for the 43-year-old Berliner now that he can buy high-resolution recordings online. The Scottish label Linn Records is one source of such high-fidelity sounds. An album costs a little more than a CD in a shop, but it can comprise 20 times the data of an equivalent MP3, so you need a lot of storage capacity.
The great advantage is that there is absolutely no loss. In fact, it sounds better than a regular CD. It is basically what you used to get with analog records and a good record player. If you compare the sound to that of an MP3, it will just blow you away.
A number of websites are now offering high-resolution music, mainly classical and jazz, produced by such well-known labels as Deutsche Grammophon. HighRes Audio is a new commercial music download service based in Berlin that only sells high-resolution albums and songs. It's run by Lothar and Frank Kerestedian.
We address audiophiles, music fans, people who appreciate music, not just the music itself, but also the quality of the reproduction. They're our main target group. I also think we'll convert lots of people when they realize that for just a little more money, they can get much better music.
British pianist Paul Lewis is recording an album at the renowned Teldex studio in Berlin. Martin Sauer is world famous as a producer of classical recordings. At Teldex, they still make analog recordings. Digitalization comes right at the end of the production process, and all in high resolution.
For us, it is above all about recordings that sound good, and about the music. There are music lovers and hi-fi lovers for whom that is not so important. They're more into the equipment sounding good. But what is happening now is a democratization of quality, bringing it to the people, making such recordings available via the internet.
It's only with really good equipment that the difference between regular and audiophile recordings can be appreciated. And in Berlin, you can buy such hardware at Max Schlund's shop. A digital to analog converter greatly improves sound quality. And there's equipment that's especially designed to play and store that music.
If the equipment is right, listening to a high-resolution recording is like opening a window really wide. The music is more authentic. I hear more, but without thinking all the time, I'm hearing more. It's a much greater experience.
Letztlich ist es ein höheres Maß an Erlebnis.
High-resolution audio is a treat for the ears. Pure pleasure. It may not be that popular yet, but it has great potential.
And eventually we'll have surround sound on all our TVs. What a frightening thought. I'll leave you to think about that. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye-bye.